And now for the Rudebuoyz rant.
Rudebuoyz, we're upon the scene again with another podcast of the Rudebuoyz rant. This is a dirty immigrant.
This is Scotland.
Yeah, we're working with two mics here, and we have a guest, Keiyan Finley, and we're gonna be talking a little bit of politics and thing in here. You know, more so like systems and what they are, sort of, and then we could go into other stuff as we go. So say hey.
Yeah. Well, I'm Keiyan, and I'm a student here at Marshall. Gone on a bit of a hiatus, but I'll be coming back here in the fall, hopefully. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit of politics.
Yeah, this is his first time doing this, so bear with him a little bit. Yeah, he's a wealth of information.
Yeah, never recorded anything before. Well, that's not true. I used to record things on family camera, family home video, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
But like,
See, you know, like I tell you, man, you could come in here and do a show.
never anything that any amount of people would ever listen to.
Well, here you go, brother. No, they got your voice on. So we're going to talk about the different types of socialism. Let me just put it that way to begin with.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that was how we were going to start it off, because I've obviously got a candidate running in the Democratic primary who calls himself a Democratic Socialist. We have probably the most famous senator in the country right now. I'm sorry, most famous representative in the country right now is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she calls herself a Democratic Socialist. I've never seen a representative achieve the level of like stardom and almost celebrity that she has in such a short amount of time. It's breathtaking.
What do you think? What do you think could cause that?
I think her win sort of shocked the media.
Oh, okay.
Like, she knocked out incumbent Democrat Joe Crowley. Like, I know of him because I listen to this show called Secular Talk. You listen to it too. Yeah. Kyle Kalinske only refers to him as Corrupt Joe Crowley. Like, that's his first name.
Oh, okay.
He's been there, like, forever, decades. And then she comes out of nowhere, a grassroots-funded campaign, lots of local energy behind her, just hits the pavement and just defeats him, like, handily.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, like, she's the most famous representative in America, it seems like. Like,
the other side hates her, man.
oh yeah. it's
They hate. This is not a dislike.
Yeah, like it's really amazing.
And women too. Women hate her.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's just, I mean, politics in general is really polarized.
Yeah.
Like I've only taken one political science class up to this point because I actually wanted to go into the science department, but there were a bunch of prereqs that I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah.
Not about all that math.
Join the club.
Yeah. But I'm going back to do political science because that seems to be what most animates me.
Yeah.
But one thing they teach you in 101 is, there's this spectrum, left to right, and supposedly the middle of the country is in this center, right?
Purgatory.
Yeah, But they talk a lot about the phenomenon of polarization, which means that over time, Americans seem to have more efficiently sorted themselves into one camp or the other.
Yeah.
So, if you ask somebody their opinion on gun control and gay rights, you can more or less accurately predict their position on Social Security or Medicare.
Yeah.
With usually a good amount of accuracy.
Yeah.
And of course, there are exceptions to this, like libertarians, for example. They pretty much have the consistent anti-government position. So it's like, they're pro-choice, but they're also anti-government welfare.
Yeah. Yeah, we know a couple of people like that.
It's like, it's basically just keep the government out of my life, period.
Yeah.
And so it's more of a consistent ideological position, whereas most Americans are more mixed, generally.
Yeah.
It's usually just, what did my parents believe, and what kind of people did I hang around in school and through college.
Yeah.
And most Americans don't have like a specific ideology or anything. They're not reading Ludwig von Mises or Karl Marx or any of that.
Yeah.
They're just kind of...
As a matter of fact, when I mentioned the Communist Manifesto, everybody go, what?
Yeah.
Most people, at least, we have conversations all the time.
Which reminds me, we've gotten a little bit off track.
Yeah. That's all right. We do that a lot here.
Yeah. So, democratic socialism. What's it mean? Well, socialism is a term that has taken on so many definitions that it's basically one of the most broad political terms there is. It's been used to describe anyone even vaguely on the left. Like, people on the right called Obama a socialist during his presidency when,
he was a socialist.
Anyone who knows the least bit about socialism knows that's not even remotely true.
Yeah.
The left, when Obama receives criticism from his left all the time, it's because he wasn't left enough.
Yeah.
They think he was a neoliberal shill or whatever. So, so socialism's become something of a broad term. It's a broad church. It encompasses a lot of different ideologies.
Yeah.
So many that I don't even have time to go into it. Yeah. I think I'd just bore everyone if I went into the distinction between Leninism or Luxemburgism or anarcho-syndicalism. And in fact, I don't even understand the distinctions between these things.
Yeah.
So, to be completely honest with you. So, what I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders mean when they say democratic socialism, I think they're actually talking about social democracy. They point to Sweden, Denmark, basically Finland, Iceland, basically Scandinavia.
Yeah.
What they're talking about is actually a form of capitalism, which is just heavily regulated and features large welfare states. They have generous public services for their citizens, like, universal health care and free college and, public transit and all that kind of thing. So it's not fundamentally anti-capitalist the way it exists, right? It's really, so that's what we call social democracy. Now, there are definitely branches of socialism to the left of that. So we'll call them classical Marxist or communist.
Yeah.
And again, these terms, if you Google them, you'll find dozens of offshoots of them.
Yeah.
But we'll say that there's another branch that says, okay, that's all fine and good, but it doesn't go far enough. As long as you leave the private ownership of the means of production intact, then ultimately special interests are going to undo all the progress that you've made.
Yeah.
So say you shorten the work week so that people have more time to spend with their families, or you raise the minimum wage so that people have more money in their pocket, or you institute a 30-to-1 CEO pay cap so that CEOs don't make ridiculously more than the lowest paid worker at a company.
Yeah.
These are all reforms that would help, the poorest, not even the poorest Americans, but really just the majority of Americans would benefit from these programs. But the argument of this farther left branch of socialism is, as long as you leave the private ownership of the means of production intact, special interests are always going to roll back these reforms.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, what you need to do, they say, is you need to seize the means of production by the state. And the argument is that if the means of production are, if you decide democratically what to do with the means of production, then you get better results than if you just let the market decide.
Oh, so in essence, what we have here is not really a democracy. This type of capitalism that we living in now.
Yeah, they would assert that. Yeah, at least if they're the democratic variety.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, it's possible to have a socialist state in the way they're describing it that is not at all democratic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And in fact, you could argue the People's Republic of China was, it's pretty much that.
Yeah.
Where it's like almost the state is God,
Yeah.
and you have one party and you have one candidate that party selects, so you have really no fundamental choice in who runs the state. It's just this endless bureaucracy.
Yeah.
But that's their contention, that you need to completely seize the means of production. The state needs to seize the means of production. And then there's a third branch of socialism. And this branch, again, there are many different factions in it. Some are actually anarchist. So here's the common misconception is that socialism is kind of all about the government and its role. More like that second branch, rather.
Yeah.
There's an entire branch of people who call themselves Marxists who are anarchists. They are completely opposed to the state. Their contention is, we need to live in some kind of, anarcho-syndicalist commune, and that the state is also just a sort of a tool of aristocracy and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's not the right word. Not the word I was going for, but yeah. But yeah, so this third branch of socialism, which isn't necessarily anarchist, right? It says, okay, you can replace the private ownership of the means of production with public ownership, right? But you haven't fundamentally changed the problem. You've replaced one sort of distant, hierarchical, authoritarian bureaucracy with another distant, hierarchical, authoritarian bureaucracy.
Yeah.
You haven't fundamentally changed the dynamic of the workplace. So their contention is you need to cooperatize the workplace. You need to have workplace democracy. You need to make it so that the workplace, the place where you spend most of your life, you have some decision, you have some say over what happens to the surplus value produced by your labor. And the way it's broken down is like this. The labor theory of value, which wasn't invented by Marx. Marx didn't think of it. He actually got it from a contemporary economist named Ricardo. But the labor theory of value, the way it's explained, sort of goes like this. If your boss pays you, say, $20 an hour, you're not being paid the full value of your labor, because your boss has to make a profit off of that labor in order for the business to be profitable. So if you're paid $20 an hour, the labor he's getting out of you is worth at least $21 an hour, probably a lot more.
Yeah.
So there's necessarily a surplus value produced by your labor that is going someplace where you have no say over it. And so in Marx's primary work, which is Capital Volumes 1 through 3, his primary concern, is with the workplace and how undemocratic it is under capitalism and how democratic he would like it to be under socialism.
Yeah. So
this third branch of socialism tends to be mostly concerned with cooperatizing the workplace, forming worker cooperatives, which means the workplace is now democratic, so now everybody has a say in where the surplus value of their labor goes and what's done with it, and how many hours people get and what they get paid. And the argument is that if the workers have control over that kind of thing, there's no way someone like Jeff Bezos is going to be the richest man in the world by far, in a way.
Yeah.
While his workers are peeing in bottles because they're not allowed bathroom breaks.
Bathroom breaks in the warehouses, yeah.
Yeah. You know. So that's kind of an extremely basic sort of breakdown of the different kinds of socialism. But like I said, there are as many differences as I pointed out between these three.
Yeah.
There are like dozens of sub-factions within these that don't like each other very much, it seems like.
So they're fighting amongst themselves.
Oh, yeah. Like, getting leftists to agree on anything's probably like herding a bag of cats.
Oh, man.
Trying to get a bunch of cats into a bag.
Yeah.
You know?
With no light there, they're going to start fighting.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Of all those three factions, which one's your favorite?
I consider myself more of a social democrat, with the caveat that as more labor is automated and I'm a social democrat with the caveat that I really like the idea of worker cooperatives.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of there being a thriving cooperative sector in the economy. And it's a totally legitimate and probably good way to run a business, although I'm not sure how I feel about any kind of attempt to force it to be the standard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because if you force anything, there's going to be people who going to go against it.
Yeah, backlash.
Yeah, backlash. Yeah.
And
so how do you think? Okay, go ahead.
Also with the caveat that as more labor is automated, and this is another topic we can get into. The complete automation of labor. Like MIT, I think, did a study. It may not have been MIT, but MIT did a study where they said like over 50% of jobs that exist now are subject to be automated by, I think, 2050.
What?
Yeah, like it's something absurd like that, and so like. Economists and people who work on this kind of thing are sounding the alarm bells now. Like there's going to be a huge sort of sea change and transformation in this economy. Like truckers will be one of the first casualties. Self-driving cars are becoming, the technology's almost perfected, and so truck drivers are probably going to be the first fatality of this, where they've got self-driving trucks that can. Drive that can do most of the routes.
Yeah.
Like now the technology is kind of imperfect, so it might be necessary to have a human driver for like the final eighth of the mile, right? Like when you're driving in civilian dense populations. There might be some ethical and legal issues regarding, having an AI,
An AI, man, that's scary to
having
think.
an AI decide, okay, do I stop and risk a car accident or, run over this person?
Yeah, to get the product there.
Yeah, like there people who design AIs are working this out as we speak.
But I could see a rich man going, I need my product. Run over them cars there. Press some buttons, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. See, I'm old. I'm going to be dead by then. Good luck, young fellas.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's crazy.
Like, hopefully not. Hopefully we have a system of laws. And that's another thing. The law is notoriously bad at catching up with new technology.
Yeah.
I mean, we still don't know what to do with the internet. It's still almost the Wild Wild West.
And then we're going into 5G now.
Yeah.
And they still don't know how to deal with it.
No.
Wow. See, I never thought about that happening because I'm old.
Yeah, and it's like, and the manufacturing sector, it's already happened. Something like 89-90% of the job loss in the manufacturing sector has been because of automation. Yeah. Like all this talk of Trump's trade war. One fact that gets lost in all this is that we make more things in the United States than we ever have before. Only problem is we're doing it with a third fewer workers.
Oh, so wait.
How are we doing that? We're doing it because we've automated most of these repetitive tasks, And so the remaining workers, and the only workers remaining are about a third of what we needed before.
So us immigrants aren't taking the jobs, like they say?
No, robots are taking the jobs.
Hey, all you hear that? Stop blaming us.
Yeah,
Wow, I never thought of that neither.
immigrants create jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, they come over here and they start businesses
Yeah.
at a massively disproportionate rate.
I'm pretty much mom and pop businesses too, so they have to hire people. They
Yeah,
don't have the capital to have robots do it.
And not to mention, the more people you have in a given area, the more aggregate demand increases.
Yeah.
When aggregate demand increases, eventually so does supply. More mouths to feed means more
Production.
people to provide
Yeah.
food.
Yeah. Cool.
Eventually. You know.
Wow, automated stuff. Think about it. A lot of jobs has gotten lost to that lately.
Oh yeah, it's gonna affect the place I work now, Kroger. Already the self-checkout machines have already taken jobs. People say I refuse to use that because it's taken somebody's job.
You have no choice.
And I always think in my head, being a pedant, has taken
Yeah.
their jobs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
The cashiers that used to do that are now made redundant by the existence of these machines.
Yeah. I wonder if they're gonna start replacing the baggers with robots here soon.
Probably.
But you wouldn't need baggers.
It'll happen to the cashiers first, because
Yeah.
here's the thing. I think it was actually Amazon that rolled out this idea for a store with no cashiers.
Yep.
I think Costco. No, is it Sam's Club? One of
Yeah.
those two. I was reading a headline in USA Today.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was Sam's Club. Actually rolled out an idea for a store with absolutely no cashiers. So basically what it is you just scan the barcodes with your phone as you're shopping, and then you just pay for it at the end.
No, wouldn't that cause more theft though?
That's exactly my thought, is it would cause more theft. So they might at the very least have to hire a security guard.
But you see, here's the thing though.
and maybe people to help you shop.
What they're going to
As
do
you're-
too though is they're just going to raise the prices, and we're not going to complain because we never do when they raise the prices. We only complain when they talk about raising the minimum wage.
Yeah. That's the thing is inflation eats away at your paycheck more than anything.
Yeah.
Like the price raises because the value of the dollar is eroded slowly over time. And that happens due to arcane magic that only the people at the Federal Reserve really understand. They're the people who manage the economy.
Why is that so complicated, man?
It's mathematics, like I said before. You
No
know?
wonder why they don't really teach mathematics in school here. They don't want us to understand.
Yeah. Once we get educated, we understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
Be like, whoa. Well, hold up now.
Hold up, Pappy. Wow, that's crazy. The automating thing that's kind of scary right there. No, I could understand.
Yeah, and it's not just going to happen to blue-collar workers. They're going to be the first casualties. But what happens next is white-collar workers. All these repetitive, data input jobs.
Yeah.
AIs are eventually going to learn to do that faster and more efficiently. So if all you do is sit at a cubicle all day and...
that kind of explains that theory that they're going to try to get rid of most of the population. There's a conspiracy theory where they're going to herd everybody into these camps, and they're going to try to eliminate a lot of the population, because then if they keep the population as is, people are going to rebel because they need jobs and stuff.
Yeah, like that is definitely the nightmare. And it is a legitimate concern, because you see, like I was saying before, I touched on with the labor theory of value.
Yeah.
Labor is inherently valuable. That's how the labor movement has been able to leverage this since the early days of American political movements.
Yeah.
Like unionization has been such a powerful tool because people just realize, okay, you need my labor. Like, you need me to produce 50 widgets. And if you have nobody to produce 50 widgets, well, then you're up the creek, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you're not paying me enough, we're all going to get to. You're not paying us enough. We're all going to get together. We're going to collectively bargain, and we're going to say, you're going to pay us more, or we're not going to work.
Yeah.
We're going to strike. We're going to do work stoppages, and et cetera. Leveraging labor power has been a very powerful tool for the working class throughout history. We got the weekend because of labor activists. That's not something business owners bestowed upon us out of the kindness of their hearts.
Yeah, they don't never do that.
No. Like, it used to be, you would work 12 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week in a factory. Your kids would work alongside with you under terrible conditions. You'd be breathing textile dust all day.
You see, but don't you think we kind of going back to that? Only now, everybody's part-time. You work 6-7 days a week, 5 hours a day.
Yeah, we're going back to that because unions have been gutted.
Oh, big time.
It used to be a significant portion of the labor force was unionized. Now I think I don't know. It's got to be less than a third.
And the thing about it is, rich people have gotten it done perfectly because now anytime you say union, communism.
Yeah.
And all these fools go, yeah, communism don't want God, so we can't have them.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's working like a perfect machine, isn't it? They slap the religion in there to influence, and then they have communism as the antithesis of it.
Yeah.
Oh, they have it done perfect, man. And we fallen well.
Yeah.
Most of us are falling.
And you see, the moral majority, as they were called, they did a very good job silencing, like, the Christian left. It used to be that, Martin Luther King and not even just the Christian left, but the religious left.
Yeah.
You used to have Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but also just this long tradition of people who were just like, who extrapolated, from the Bible, the parts of the Bible where Jesus, feeds the poor. Literally takes the loaves of bread and the fish and multiplies it and hands it out, as, we're meant to help our fellow man. We are meant to help each other. And so a system where everybody is fed and everyone's basic needs are taken care of, that's the most Christian thing I can imagine.
Yeah. It's like we were talking out there just now about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God help those who help themselves. No, they have them believing that if they just sit around and pray, it's going to come to them.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's a conspiracy thing. I just figure that rich people have figured out. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. You're right that the people who have all the money and power know what's going on.
Yeah.
And they're just doing what's in their self-interest.
Yeah, it's not a conspiracy. At
the end of the day,
this is the way it is. Oh, that's working. Let's roll with it.
You need no formal conspiracy when like interests converge.
Yeah. There's no Illuminati sitting down. There's a meeting there, fellas. Come, let's drink champagne, and decide how you're gonna screw over these poor people. It's like because a lot of people are getting rich that weren't rich before. They just figured it out.
Yeah, like it's just
like preachers.
Yeah,
and politicians.
You'd be surprised probably the number of preachers that are probably atheists at this point.
I know,
because they
don't even believe what they say.
There was a documentary about a preacher who, by the end of his grift, was actually an atheist. Like, he didn't believe anything he was preaching. He would sell it like he believed it. He was an actor. He was a performer.
Yeah.
Then he'd go back to his hotel room. He'd count his money, And this guy eventually did do a candid documentary where he's like, yeah, I didn't believe any of this.
Scientology, that's what's that.
Oh, the Church of Scientology is 100% a scam. They don't even tell you.
Make sure they're not popping up here trying to kill us. No.
Yeah. They won't try and kill you. Yeah. They don't even tell you what's up with that religion until you've already sunk thousands of dollars into it.
Yeah,
It's a sunk cost fallacy. I've already sunk $1,000 into this. They're telling me that it's this guy named Xenu, and the universe is about 1 trillion years old. and
what's his name? John Travolta is doing a movie with some aliens and dreadlocks. I mean, they even demonize and Rasta on the vibe.
The movie is hilarious. I've never even seen it.
I haven't seen it.
I've seen clips of it.
Yeah, and I was like, John, you don't even have hair on your head. What you do with that wig on? But oh man, that is some crazy stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, so going back to automation, like, it's not just going to be the blue collar jobs; it's going to be the white collar jobs, and bringing it back to socialism, like this is what that third branch of socialism, the libertarian socialists, or the workplace democracy socialists, this is what they'd say, right? So you've got this technology, right, that can save on labor costs. It can do what a human worker can do in 1 hour, it can do in 15 minutes, okay? So what are we going to do with this technology? Let's decide democratically. So if our boss was still in charge, what he'd do is if this thing could reduce labor costs by 50%, right? What he'd do is he'd fire half the workers and leave just those workers that are necessary, and then maybe have them working harder than ever. He might have them working overtime because they're the only workers left. Or what you could do is you could take that new labor-saving technology, you could half everyone's hours and just pay them twice as much.
Yeah.
You could have it so that people are making more money than ever and they're working less while still working less than ever.
Yeah.
And instead of, making this huge profit off of this new labor-saving technology, instead, you can put more money into the pockets of your workers.
Yeah, because, if they get rid of all the workers, the machines aren't going to spend the money on the product.
Nah. Yeah, that's the fatal flaw of this system. This is one of, I guess to put it in Marxist terms, one of the inherent contradictions of this system.
Yeah.
Is that it inevitably bends toward monopoly. It inevitably bends toward more and more money ending up in fewer and fewer hands. But what that does is that it leaves the people at the bottom with no money to buy the products
that they produce, that these machines produce,
that are being produced. And so the especially when you start automating people's jobs.
Yeah.
When you take away their main source of livelihood, they're not only is it wrong for just the moral reason that they're starving or they're if we live in a humane society.
Yeah.
Excuse me. If we're living in a humane society, they're living on some type of benefit until they can get back on their feet.
I look at stuff from the human perspective. The idea of paying the people more is a good idea because they work less, they spend time with the family, and one side of the political spectrum says family values. Right there, you have your family values. You know what I mean? People are staying home, they're having picnics with their kids. You know what I mean? They're planting trees.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. More work-life balance and more pay. That should be the goal.
Yeah.
The goal should be to improve the lives of as many people as possible.
Well, the goal for them is to make as much money as they can.
Of course, their material interests are aligned with that purpose.
But you see, like we were saying, though, it's amazing how they change the narrative because, I'm older than you guys, and I always put that up on a Facebook page. Whatever happened to love thy neighbor, goodwill to men? You don't hear that stuff anymore coming from. It's like that preacher that's talking about round up all the gays and kill them. You would never hear that before.
Oh yeah, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't hear it because the internet wasn't a thing, and you couldn't. All these pastors weren't recording themselves and putting their sermons online. I honestly think that, because in the past, religion was used to justify slavery.
Yeah.
And of course, it was also the tool of the abolitionists who used it to, abolish slavery.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a thing you can bend.
Yeah.
Sort of project your own values onto it.
Maybe that's why people are so confused, because the one thing they believe has been bending and twisting over all these years to facilitate the trending ideology at the time.
Yeah, because the history of religion, it's definitely not clean.
No.
You've got, Catholics and Protestants killing each other for thousands of years.
They have Muslims killing each other right now over there in the Middle East.
And the fundamental divide between Sunni and Shiite, it basically began over a dispute of which of Muhammad's brothers would, or rather, which of his sons, I think, would inherit the caliphate.
Oh,
And-
dear Lord.
And, it's always that, when you have it go through bloodline,
Yeah.
line of succession. That's always going to be the conflict. Is it this uncle that gets it, or is it his son, or
And the people are just left in the wind.
is it the first son, which nobody likes?
Yeah.
Or is it the second son, which would actually be a good ruler?
I was thinking the other day, kind of switching it up a little bit. I was thinking the other day how perfectly they have used stuff like religion and politics to divide people. Because look at it. The Arabs are fighting against each other right now because Saudi Arabia can't stand Iran.
Yeah, well,
You know what I mean?
that's the misnomer. Is Iran's not Arab? They're Persian.
Well, yeah, but it's the same region.
Yeah. You mean the Middle East?
Oh, they're Persian. So what is the difference there?
I'm not clear exactly, but it's just a different ethnic group basically.
Oh.
They don't consider themselves. They definitely don't consider themselves Arab, and
So they have us believing because Arab is the bad word.
yeah. In America, Arab, Muslim, and
They're all the same thing.
it's all the same thing.
So you could be from Africa if you're Muslim. You're an Arab.
Yeah, like the majority of the Muslim world is not Arab. Like
Yeah.
the country with the largest Muslim population, I believe, is India, followed by Indonesia. So Southeast Asians probably make up the most Muslims.
Oh,
No.
so most of them don't come from the Middle East like they say.
Nah.
So what? So is that? And Christianity is pretty big in the Middle East. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, it's definitely and here's the thing about the Middle East is actually for the majority of their history you would find pretty cosmopolitan places where not just Sunni and Shiite, but also Jews and Christians were also
Yeah.
living beside each other in harmony. It's not necessarily this history of just complete antagonization.
Then they found the oil.
Yeah, a lot of stories end with "and then they found the oil."
They found that oil, man, and it's like, oh yeah, let's walk. Because even now they have Hispanic people fighting against Hispanic people because now the Mexicans are starting to put other Hispanic people in concentration camps.
Yeah,
They do the same thing with Africans.
Yeah, people say like, oh man, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Those people have been killing each other for thousands of years. And it's like, no, this particular conflict began in like the 1940s.
Yeah. So
I mean,
are the Jews a sect of Arabs?
there are Arab Jews, but the thing about Judaism, and I'm speaking a little bit outside of my area of expertise. Like I'll
Yeah.
probably get corrected on a lot of this if people bother to correct me.
Yeah.
But Judaism, it's simultaneously an ethnic group and a religion.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it's famously sort of exclusive is not the word I'm looking for, but something like that.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like you have to marry into it, and you have to convert, and you definitely have to be, part of it to.
Huh. So that's
Yeah,
where
like-
Catholicism stole their idea.
No,
You have to marry one of us.
Well, actually, that was the big innovation of Christianity and later on Islam. Whereas, like Judaism, it's like we're not really interested in converting the world. We're really more of an exclusive club. We're God's chosen people. Whereas Christianity and Islam, what their major innovation is, no, we're going to try to assimilate as many different people as possible into our fold.
No, but have you ever had a Muslim try to convert you?
I never have.
I never have. Have you?
I haven't met very many Muslims, to be honest with you.
I've met quite a few Muslims, and they never
in
try to
West
convert me.
in West by God, Virginia.
Well, on campus here,
I've never-
on campus here back in the day, there was a lot of Muslims here. They never tried to convert me. Not once did they tell me come to Allah.
yeah, it's Islam.
On the flip side, now every time they realize there's a 7 foot tall immigrant, black immigrant, come to me, my man. Do you know Jesus?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all that stuff is crazy, man.
But, Islam, I think it is pretty much the most cosmopolitan religion on the planet. The only one that competes with it is Christianity. They have this idea, we're all equal under Allah. Like I said, the majority of them are Southeast Asian, but you can find them all over the world. Southeast Asian, Middle East, North Africa.
Yeah, China is doing its best job to get rid of them now.
Down into Central Africa. Yeah, and the Uyghur population in China.
Did you see the thing I put up on Facebook that the BBC went and did a interview them? They take them there and they have them singing happy songs, and it's grown people, dude. They have them in like classrooms, sitting in them little desks and stuff, like kindergartens would sit in, and they painting, and they said, you see, it's re-education, it's not indoctrination, But then even in those compounds, there's places they couldn't go, and they have these big iron thing with spikes in it. How is that like a hotel for them, and they get followed? Well, that's a prisoner.
Yeah. You can dress it up all you want, but a prisoner is a prisoner.
So, okay, what do you think of the Chinese political machine that's pretty much starting to seep through all over the world?
Oh, most analysts say, I think, they will be a superpower by 2030. That's...
I'll be almost dead by then. Because, dude, what I see they doing to that Muslim population, I could see them starting to do it around the world.
Apparently, I don't know.
That's scary.
It kind of is, but on the other hand, it's really just... So for the longest time, there's been a global hegemon, right? Just a global superpower that pretty much runs the world or the known world at the time from the perspective of said society. Started with the Roman Empire, and then it's inherited by the British Empire. I was looking at this map of countries emancipated from the British Empire and what year. It's the whole planet.
Yeah.
Any place with a coastline, the British had.
Because they had that vicious navy.
And the British, if they didn't have it, Spain or France had it. Or Belgium.
And nobody knows Belgium was one of those superpowers too.
King Leopold had the Congo, and he used to force children to work, and if they didn't produce enough product, he'd cut their hands off.
Portugal.
There
was a lot of super. That's why people are hanging on. It's like it's gonna. You know what I mean? Russia fell for a while, but why is Russia back?
Russia was always here's the thing.
The sleeping giant.
Starting with the easy questions. So Russia been a pretty powerful empire for most of its history. Well, it's one of those things where for most of its history, actually, I'm thinking. Okay, so let's start with when it first became a superpower, when it was the USSR. One thing they did really well was they industrialized very quickly. They went from an agrarian nation to a superpower insanely quick. That's one benefit of that more centralized economy, is you can just say, go here, do this, do it now. Do it with these resources. Yeah. And here's our 5-year plan, and here's how it's going to play out. And now a lot of people get ground up in that machine, and a couple million people died as a result of just being forcibly moved. And, you don't think of that, but these brutal forced marches from okay, you live here now you're going to live here.
Well, kind of like the Trail of Tears.
Trail of Tears, yeah.
Wow. It's funny how everything sort of parallels each other, huh?
Yeah, and we got into a Cold War, basically, because, here's this superpower. They've done more than anybody, perhaps, to defeat the Nazis. You go back to World War II, the brunt of the casualties were sustained by the Russians. You see like Stalingrad, for example, just one of the great lessons of history: never invade Russia during winter. Napoleon learned that lesson. Hitler learned that lesson. But
So how come?
in fact, that was the main reason. That's thought to be one of the main reasons why Japan surrendered. Not just the bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but even before that, they were afraid of a Russian invasion. The prospect of a Russian ground invasion really frightened them. It was like that was their main thing. Like, okay, we can't take the Americans and the Russians, so let's start drawing up some plans to surrender. And then the bombs basically solidified it.
Oh.
So
So okay. Right now, we notice that Russia and China stand to be buddies.
Well, yeah, it's in their material self-interest. Russia, so going back, after the Soviet Union fell, you had this long, brutal Cold War where both Russia and the U.S. are both propping up puppet dictatorships all over the world, especially in Middle East and Latin America.
Well, I know about that.
Yeah, you know about that. You were a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you forget who I'm talking to for a minute there. Yeah. You're like, fuck, I remember the bombs.
We gonna bleep that one out.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and this long, brutal Cold War where we're both propping up brutal military dictatorships. It's just like eventually this massive bureaucracy they've got going, it just falls for one reason or another. We don't have time to get into it.
Yeah,
but they fall, and then we heavily intervene in their elections. I think in the 1990s, in favor of Boris Yeltsin. Like, I think us, the World Bank, the IMF, basically we really want Yeltsin to win because we think he's going to be a liberal reformer. We think he's going to liberalize the economy and
is that the drunk?
All that. Boris Yeltsin.
He was the drunk.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what he's notorious for.
Nah, Gorbachev was okay. Yeltsin was the drunk. Yeltsin was after Gorbachev.
Yeah. It's like, and it's ironic that we're crowing about interference in our election when we're the nation that perhaps has the most history with interfering in other democracies. I mean, like I said, during the Cold War, we overthrew some democracies to install some authoritarian dictatorships just because those democracies happen to be pro-USSR.
Oh, yeah.
And the dictators we installed were pro-America.
You see, the sad part about that is if you have a revolution and you want to have it as a democracy, and you say, okay, we got rid of this guy, now we want to be friends with you too. They go, no, but we were friends with him, so we can't be friends with you, so screw you. We going to terrorize you now. You know what I mean? Because I know for a fact when we had our revolution, we said, hey, Mr. Reagan, blah, this is this. And he's like, I love me some Gary, boy. Because Gary was here in America when it happened. You know what I mean? So then he stayed here. He died here, actually. You know what I mean? And the same thing happened with Somoza. He died here. They blew him up in New York. And you could just go with all these dictators that just ran here. Also, we also have to take into consideration that there were dictators from there that ran to like Soviet ruled countries. And so, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy. You have these two countries just like everybody's in the middle. Well, this guy, when I first came to this country, this guy explained it the best to me. It was another basketball player. He said, America here, Russia here, and I came here in 86 when there was still superpowers and the Cold War going on.
Yeah.
Russia here, America here, anything in the middle, we piss on it.
Yeah. You're in the crossfire.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was.
And that's not me saying that. This is a fellow basketball player from Columbus, Ohio that said this to me.
Yeah. You think, like, what did Afghanistan have to do with, us or Russia? What did Vietnam have to do with it?
I know.
Nothing really. They're puppets.
I mean, and the thing about it is, people fail to realize that Russia was in Afghanistan for 10 years, terrorizing them people there.
Yeah, like there's a reason they call Afghanistan the graveyard of empires.
Yeah.
Alexander the Great just passed over that place. Like, no need getting entangled here.
Yeah.
And and then the British Empire tries to take it, and keep it. They fail, and then Russia comes in, and then we humiliate Russia in Afghanistan the same way Russia kind of helped humiliate us in Vietnam. So the North Vietnamese with international communist support, sort of one of the great embarrassments of the United States is, we get entangled in this decades-long war, and at the end of it, we just have to bow out because we've already sunk too much into it. I mean, it's just,
what is it about Afghanistan? Do they have like natural resources there or something? I thought it was just a place with a bunch of caves and.
I don't know. I guess it. I don't know. And then they found the oil, I guess.
Full circle.
That must be what it is.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other natural resource that they have that would be at all advantageous.
Oh, did you see in the Golan Heights where they opened up a place called Trump Heights or something like that?
Oh, I did. I saw that headline.
Yeah, certain things you just don't pay attention to
know,
anymore
and
because it's all
like,
window dressing.
I mean, he's the president that officially moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, and just saying, conclusively, well, I guess acknowledging in the eyes of this administration that yes, Jerusalem is Israel's.
But see, that's a 10 years relationship though, because isn't it that? In Christian thinking that the Jews sort of forsaked Jesus.
You'll certainly find some Christians, I think, who will take that tack. Like Mel Gibson was notorious for going on his little anti-Semitic screed.
Mel Gibson, he's still alive?
I guess he is.
But. And I don't want him dead. That was just a joke saying.
We're not.
I haven't heard from him in a long time.
We at the Rudebuoyz podcast do not condone any plots to assassinate Mr. Mel Gibson.
But wow. What time we got here? All right. Yeah, we're going to do a little wrapping up. We're going to have you back here to talk some more about stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I'd love to do it.
You know what I mean? But
didn't feel like 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like we've just gotten started.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like,
it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we love doing this podcast, man, because we could just come here and say what we want, except...
Except we can't. Can't be dropping bombs.
Is, we could. We just don't want to because people tend not to listen if you do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's one reason why we don't listen to a lot of rap music because of the cursing, or just the one that's, oh, you just lost me there, you know what I mean? The point, you know what I mean? So that's why we try not to. But yeah, man, it was fun having you in here, man. You know what I mean? We're going to do this again sometime. My man here is going on a 3-week jaunt through Colorado. That's Scotland here. I don't know. Is your toe going to be healed before then? We'll see. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to have to rent a donkey to go through some of the trails. Yeah, but we're going to wrap this up here, you know what I mean? This is our guest, Keiyan Finley. We're definitely going to have him back because, the Rudebuoyz here, we don't go as deep into the political stuff as he does because his stuff is political science. We deal with more the human side of it. And it could mesh because, as you could tell with some of the things we talk about, it meshed pretty well. So we're going to sign off from here. And tune in on Monday. Mondays is when, and of course, some Wednesdays I do the Wednesday rewind, others I don't because of space. We can't use up too much of the space that we have there. But it was good having you here, man. Thanks for coming back.
Blast. Yeah, we got to do it again.
Yeah, okay, we could do that again. So this is the Dirty Immigrant,
Scotland,
and of course Keiyan.
And Keiyan Finley.
I said skiing. I went Snoop Dogg on you. All right.